time. We're going to get focused on topics moving forward on a lot of these lives. I go all over the place. I let you guys do Q&A like crazy. Just let you loose. I need to stay focused, and I'm focusing on Nick Chubb, and I'm focusing on maybe potential top 10 running backs in this conversation. So if you want to get in on that mix, ask a question here in the chat, and we'll talk about it. But Nick Chubb coming up. What's up, Marco Silva? Marco's first, like he is a lot of the time. What's up, Steven? Intro.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
What is up? Dried Ocean in the house. Derek in the house. Silva in the house. One of the Silva brothers. Where's your brother? There he is. No, I just got Marco Silva in here. Ryan, ugly dudes in the house. Spread the word. Get more people into the show. Our lives used to be, I mean, it's because it's the off season, obviously, but we got into the 8 and like close to 900 range on our lives heading into the early or the late part, or I'd say mid-season. So I can't wait for 2020. I can't wait to get these lives hopping. I think we're going to go over 1,000 on our lives during the year. So can't wait. Subscribe if you haven't. Like on your way in. I only see 5 thumbs up on the way in. Shameful. Shameful. Nick Chubb time. Guys, Nick Chubb, I'm really excited about heading into 2020. I will first start out with saying that I do worry about his long-term value a little bit. And I had that approach heading into 2019, but I did love Nick Chubb. I thought Nick Chubb would be a top 10 running back, and he was. He was a fantastic running back in 2020, and they leaned on him a ton. And I wasn't worried about Kareem Hunt taking his job. I was worried about not having Kareem Hunt because if Chubb went down, because he's an aggressive runner, I still feel this way. If Kareem Hunt stays, they need to be cuffed. They need to be cuffed. There's probably no more important cuff in the NFL than Kareem Hunt if he is retained and stays in Cleveland. I don't think he'll find what he wants out there on the open market. I think they retain him, but he could go elsewhere. If he does go elsewhere, then handcuff Chubb to whoever the backup's going to be. But Nick Chubb, to me, look, there's times in fantasy football where you adjust and adapt, and I'm not really adjusting and adapting because I loved him last year. But I have said that I worry about the workload taking a toll, and I do. So Dynasty, pump the brakes on making him a top 5 Dynasty running back. But in 2020, give me 1 year, and we'll focus on 1 year. I want Nick Chubb in my top 5 to 6 range. I hopefully can draft him later, and he does fall sometimes to 7, 8, 9. I took him in the Fantasy Football Showdown League, a.k.a. the Battle of the Pimps, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have Nick Chubb on my roster. Why I have Nick Chubb on my roster? Why do I have Chubb on my roster? Because Stefanski is now the coach in Cleveland. Who did Stefanski coach in Minnesota for a year? A little guy named Dalvin Cook, who's a top 5. What's Dalvin Cook? What is Dalvin Cook?
Top 5 running back.
What is Dalvin Cook?
Top 5 running back. You're watching. Back.
This is live. This is footage we just found of Smitty talking. This is undiscovered footage
Top
of
5
Smitty.
running back. You're watching the Fantasy. You're watching.
Stefanski turned Dalvin Cook into an even more explosive receiving weapon, TD machine than he was going to be in Minnesota regardless. But Stefanski means a couple things. He means a dialed back pass attack. So bad news, Odell Beckham Jr. and Landry believers and Mayfield believers. Damn Mayfield. This is not great news for that attack in terms of numbers. The sound's not working now? What do you mean? Who doesn't hear me? Savvy, you can hear me. What about you, Frank? You can hear me? Ocean? I think, is Mark messing with me? Is Mark messing with me? Who can hear me? Mark, you better not be messing with me. Stefanski's going to spell more receptions, more touchdowns. Now, I don't know if you can get more yards and carries than Chubb had. Chubb was used a ton, even when looking at that. That sounds fine, says Brian. Mark, stop screwing with me, Mark. Damn, Mark. Nick Chubb, to me, is on... Mark got me derailed. Mark, take a lap. Take a lap, you SOB. No, it's probably just your internet connection, Mark. Mark, you're not an SOB. Mark, I owe Mark a pimp cane. I'm sorry, Mark. Mark, you're my friend. Okay. Let's back up. Calm down, Smitty. My blood pressure is like through the roof, probably. Nick Chubb. Let's pull up some Nick Chubb stats. Let's take a look. I gotta calm down. Nick Chubb in 2019 ran for 1,494 yards on 298 attempts, 5.0 yards per pop, 7 100-yard games, 8 TDs, 36 receptions for 278, and 0 receiving TDs. If we look at look at Dalvin Cook's numbers, he had less yardage. He had less 100-yard games and more TDs by quite a bit. He also had probably a little over 25% more receptions, and so more yardage. And then actually Cook didn't have a receiving TD in 2019, which is quite surprising. But I predict that Chubb will. I think that Chubb is in the 12 to 14 TD range in 2020. I think Chubb will retain about 1,300 to 1,400 yards. He might move a little bit of that into the receiving game, but I believe he will be a 400 to 500 yard receiving running back with about 45 to 50 receptions. In PPR, that's a big bump. So while I understand he had great numbers already, you could look at it two ways. You could say to yourself, you know what, Smitty? I'm not sold that Stefanski's going to make Nick Chubb a ton better, but it sure as hell makes me excited that he's going to continue to be a beast in 2020 and won't be left behind. So look at it however you want. Who would you rather have, Chubb or Aaron Jones? I had both on the clock, Dried Ocean, in the Battle of the Pimp League, the Fantasy Football Showdown, and I took Chubb with a grin. So there's your answer. Clear as day. Nick Chubb. Give me Nick Chubb. I'm not saying I don't like Aaron Jones at the right price. Nick Chubb, I'd pay about 3 or 4 spots more in terms of value in 2020. So mark him down for 1,400 rushing yards. Mark him down for 14 total TDs. About 45 receptions maybe to 50. And I don't see any reason why he can't duplicate the receiving totals and get 1 or 2 touchdowns through the air and duplicate this Dalvin Cook production, because Nick Chubb is just as good when on the field and healthy. And do I worry about the workload? Yeah, that's why if Kareem Hunt does stay, it's almost a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people want to feel there's no Kareem Hunt. Thank God Nick Chubb can be unleashed. But the bottom line is Kareem Hunt was there for a big part of the year, and Nick Chubb still had a monster year and was literally, you could argue, the best running back for big chunks of the season. And he had a couple bad games at the end of the year. If he wouldn't have done that, he would have been probably a top 4 or 5 pick in 2020 drafts. But because people remember the 2 bad games he had in a row, it left a sour taste in some people's mouth. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm fine with Kareem Hunt being on the roster. Now, will I be a little more excited with Hunt off the roster than on the roster? Probably, because everybody needs a backup. I prefer the backup not be near as good talent-wise as the starter. That does concern me a little bit. But in the end, if you can cuff these two together, I do believe Stefanski will use one running back at a time. Will he spell him? Yes. Matheson was used, but he was not used to any kind of degree that hurt Dalvin Cook's value. And I think Matheson's probably just as good as Kareem Hunt, if you ask me. And I know a lot of people love him as a big, deep sleeper. If Cook went down, Matheson would be a freaking top 10 running back per start. I don't know that he's a long-term answer, kind of like James Conner filled in temporarily for a year. I feel that way about Matheson. I'm not saying he can't be a workhorse every down running back, but he certainly feels like he could be for 1 or 2 seasons if called upon. So give me Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb all day long as my running back one, as my first rounder and handcuff pick that I do have to reach a little bit to get. Give me that all day long over drafting somebody without the backup situation. Would I rather have Chubb and his backup that is not named Kareem Hunt over those running backs as well? Yes, but I am certainly fine with Chubb and Kareem Hunt and walk into 2020 ear to ear grin that I have a top 5 running back lock with those two. Tannehill's dad wants to know Kareem Hunt over Gordon. Just speaking facts. Talent wise, I'd say they're really damn close, man. If Hunt didn't run into trouble, Hunt would be probably still being drafted in the 5 to 10 range in first round, have first round value in 2020 still. I think he'd be playing that well. I love Kareem Hunt's talent. I don't think he's going to find what he wants on the open market. I don't think teams are going to be willing to pay. But all it takes is one team. All it takes is one team to overlook what he's been going through. Maybe he has a good interview with them, and they're like, dude, we want you as our starting running back in our future, and they sign him to a contract. He might have to sign for less money, but be, the focal point, and that will be enough for him. Like, he'll take almost a pay cut or I'm not saying Kansas City will go after him, but I could see Kansas City going after him. Kansas City is not... I hate the fact that they aren't sold on Damien Williams. They were sold on him last year more than they were sold on him this year. And so many people act like Damien Williams is finished to the 2020 playoffs was his basically Super Bowl game is an indication that they're for sure going to use him. I hope they do. And I think Damien Williams will be fire. Damien Williams will be fire per start if he gets started in that Kansas City offense. Who wouldn't be? Tannehill's grandma would be a running back one in that offense. But it boils down to this. You had Damien Williams set up to succeed in 2019. No running back but Zeke Elliott had more yards and touchdowns and production than Damien Williams did in his final 6 games of the year, scoring 10 TDs in that 6-game span. And for me, that is more momentum than freaking one game in the Super Bowl. So, what's up, Marcus? What's up, Joseph? What's up, Reyes? I don't know. You guys be the judge. I'm just here to deliver the content that I feel needs to be in front of your eyes, and you guys can make the call. Use my information to help guide you. I miss at times. What's up, Marco? Marco with the super. Thank you, kind sir. Marco is the man. Marco Silva, one of the Silva brothers, dropping the 5 spot. The dono computer super chat.
Yes, Smitty. Thank you for the super. May I have another?
Thank you, Marco. Marco says, showing some love, bro. Can't wait. Crush the next years in fantasy. Blah blah blah. That's my man, Marco. I didn't mean to blah 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 you. Renee, KC will be replacing Damien Williams with a rookie. That won't surprise me. That won't surprise me at all. But they also took Darwin, who you could say Darwin wasn't set up to thrive, but they talked him up big time. They talked a big game using Darwin and didn't. So depends on the running back they take. If they take a medium type name like a Zach Moss, then I wouldn't lock myself into anything because Darwin Thompson was pretty damn exciting. I'm not falling for that again. But Damien Williams, if used, would be elite. But we just don't know if they're going to use him. And I don't know that I don't know that we'll have that answer, guys. I wish we would. We could walk into 2020 knowing what's going on with that situation, but we won't. Thanks again, Marco. You're the man. Exactly. Took Darwin too, and he did nothing. Yeah, not your fault, Marcus. And I had a hand in talking him up. So I'm not exactly sold. If they take a top, here's the thing: if a team like KC or anybody really spends enough draft capital, where they're buying a Jonathan Taylor, or a J.K. Dobbins. I keep saying DK. I keep wanting to say DK Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, Smitty. Then yeah, they're probably going to start that player. So if KC reached high enough and spent the draft capital, they will play that running back. But if they take a guy in the 4th or 5th round, there's no telling what they're going to do. So we'll see. We will see. What other questions you guys have? Let's talk top 10 running backs only. So you have my take on Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a top 5 to 10 lock, in my opinion. And if Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt is on roster in 2020, then you want to cuff the two, and it doesn't detour me away from drafting Chubb at all. It almost, in a way, I feel better. I'm a little bit worried about, I guess, out of the gate, maybe, that I would be if it was just Nick Chubb. But long-term, when I say long-term, I mean for the whole season, it's a security blanket, man. Kareem Hunt in that offense would explode if he's the only guy. Nick Chubb in that offense, and if he's starting and healthy, he will be the guy. It doesn't matter if Kareem Hunt's on the roster or not. He will be the man. It's kind of one of those situations where you're like, you got to trust in that historically what's going to happen is Stefanski is going to utilize Nick Chubb like he did Dalvin Cook. And given that Nick Chubb just exploded and had one of the better seasons he could have had anyway, it's just more like gravy on top that Stefanski's now in Cleveland. Because you know they're going to dial back that passing attack and grind it out between the tackles. They're going to run a ton. They're going to run a ton. And they already did last year, but they're going to again run Nick Chubb between the tackles. And hopefully, even if they dial back his rushing yards from 1494 to like 1340 or whatever, they give him 200 more receiving yards because he breaks off one or two 60, 70-yard catches here and there. His totals will be well above 350, 400 if he plays a full year or even remotely close to a full year. And I think it's an anomaly that Cook didn't get a receiving TD at all. I think Chubb could get 10 to 12 rushing TDs and 2 to 3 receiving TDs. I would not put it back past that at all. Drake says Marco Silva. You know how I feel about Drake, Marco. Marco, you know how I feel about Drake. I just hope he stays in Arizona. Like in Detroit, there's a lot of news breaking today that Detroit could be looking at Drake. I like him. I'm still going to like Drake. I'm still going to back him. Detroit wanted him very, very badly before he landed in Arizona. So Detroit definitely, I think if they took him, they would use him. Then again, the Rams really wanted Darrell Henderson. And the Rams traded up for Darrell Henderson. And the Rams did not use said Darrell Henderson. So we really don't know, do we? So if Detroit does, in fact, go after Kareem or Kenyan Drake, I sound like Biden, then I really believe they're going to use him and utilize him. But I feel like Arizona's just a better fit, man. Arizona is perfect for Kenyan Drake. Kenyan Drake needs Arizona, and I hope to God he's retained. I think it's a lot of noise right now. It's beefing up, it's posturing, trying to get Arizona to offer him a big deal. So, what's up, Talker? Talker says, hey, Smitty, got any Dynasty videos planned? Absolutely. Every video is practically a Dynasty video, Talker. Haven't you seen what I've been dropping? They're all Dynasty practically at this point. And even right now, we can talk Dynasty until your heart's content. But make sure you ask me a top 10 running back Dynasty question. It's a running back Dead zone man. What are you talking about, Marcus? Oh, Detroit? Yeah. I mean, honestly, it comes down to Stafford. If they've got a quarterback, they've got Galladay. I think they could be relatively productive with a Drake, but I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to take the chance that Stafford gets hurt, goes down, and then they don't have a running game. Yeah, I mean, do I want him in Detroit? No. Would I still like Drake? Yeah, but I think if Drake went to Detroit, his value would drop a ton anyway. So I don't think. Yeah, let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's just hope Arizona's smart. Kyler Murray's on his way, and Kenyan Drake was an integral part of his maturing process in 2019. And if in 2020 they want to keep things on the same page with the same momentum and pick up where they left off, they better damn well get Drake ready to go, paid up, and ready to rumble in 2020, because Kenyan Drake is going to drop top 10 running back numbers in a Cardinals uniform in 2020. Learn about it. And Kyler Murray, fire him up, because Kyler Murray's a top 5 running back. Give him a top 4 rank on my rankings. Top 4 running back heading into 2020. Kyler Murray, Kenyan Drake, Christian Kirk will flirt with really good numbers here and there. He could be inconsistent, but I hope the Cardinals draft CeeDee Lamb and make him an Arizona Cardinal. The Cardinals will be stacked and ready and set for 10 years. They will be the team, one of the teams to beat, one of the top 5 teams in the NFL on a yearly basis. Put it on their tab. Jacobs. I like Jacobs a lot. I kind of feel a little bit about Jacobs in Oakland like I do, let's say, Drake headed to Detroit. I'd be like, okay, I like the player a lot. I like the way they probably want to use him. But Jacobs could be script dependent, which he was at times in 2019. It worries me a little bit about Jacobs' consistency, let's put it that way. So I like Jacobs a ton. In Dynasty, I have him very close to Chubb, because Chubb, I think, has this top 5 to 10 running back year headed his way in 2020, and then maybe one more, and then I start worrying about him. Then I sell off. I'm not a person that relies on a running back for more than 3 to 4 years right now. Then I'm selling. I'm selling high, and if I'm selling a year early, so be it. I gotta plug my laptop in now so I don't lose you guys. Nick, I'm not talking about Geis because we're only talking about top 10 running backs. And Nick, if we were doing a top 20 running back show, we wouldn't be able to talk about him either, because we'd only be talking about top 20 running backs, Nick. If you want to talk about dumpster diving players, Nick, we'll talk about that in another episode. But Geis will not make it on this show, even though he already did. I've got news for you, and I believe I'm doing a special show tomorrow on Leonard Fournette. So get ready for that doozy. And as you guys know, Leonard Fournette has been on my bust list 2 years in a row. Was I wrong about him last year? You could definitely say that he outplayed my expectations, but he was number, I think, 2 or 3 on my bold predictions for 2018 as the biggest bust candidate you could ever come across. And boy, did he fall flat on his face in 2018 after losing weight. Everybody drafted him in the first round. Well, he rebounded. He did. And I'm not going near him in 2020, and you're going to find out why probably tomorrow. I believe is when I'm going to plan that show. So get ready. All Leonard Fournette content I'm moving and deferring to Friday tomorrow. Stay tuned for my live. I'm going live talking Leonard Fournette, so get ready. That is tomorrow. Taylor, top 10 as a rookie. He could. He could. Nick says I'm disappointing him. Nick, I'm sorry. I'm a human being. Second-year running backs with value in PPR. So I don't think there are any. We're talking top 10 running backs only today, Derek, and I don't think there are any that are going to crack the top 10. Sanders could, like you could, bring his name up and say, hey, Smitty, I want to argue Sanders in the top 10, but I'm going to say no. Could he dance in that territory at times? Yeah, he could. Could Singletary? Sure. But I think these are guys that will fall outside the top 10, or you should draft them in preparation that they score outside the top 10. But Singletary has the ability. Montgomery has the ability. Sanders has the ability. I just don't know that I believe fully in their situations in terms of providing that kind of volume. Sanders, I don't know that they'll give him that kind of volume. And historically, the Eagles have not. That staff has not committed to one running back and just fed that running back 270 carries or something crazy, nor would Sanders probably hold up under that. Singletary, I don't know if they want to use him the way that we all want him to be used, and he could break. So Singletary could crack the top 10 in PPR, but I'm going to leave him outside and have more of a hopeful expectation for Singletary to be a top 10. Akers is a good topic. Akers and Williams, Akers and Jonathan Taylor, you could definitely bring up as guys that have the potential to be top 10. I don't think I'll rank them there, but they definitely could be. So, I mean, you could talk about it. Let's see, who's next? Nick, give me something not... If you think I've been disappointing you lately, Nick, it's because every time you come on the live, you ask me about Geis. So ask me about something different. Let's mix it up, and maybe I won't disappoint. And Nick's mad at him by a couple things. But Nick, I am who I am, Nick. Chubb is better than Zeke, honestly. I don't know that I could argue that they're not like on even playing field in some capacity, but I think Zeke, to me, I take Zeke over Chubb all day long. But I'm happy with Chubb at 7 to 9. I feel like I could get potentially the same kind of value. Nims as a top 30 wide receiver. Tannehill's dad, if he's not listed for whatever reason, he got bumped. So let me go fix that. If he's not listed, I'm not sleeping on Mims. I like Mims. So are you not seeing him on the rankings? Did he get... That happens every once in a while. What about Swift? Depends on his landing spot. He's very, very dependent on the landing spot. So I will give him a high ranking if he lands in a place where they'll utilize him like Kamara is used. I think he could be a lot like Kamara. Aaron Jones, a bust. I think he's a guy to be careful with. A guy to kind of don't draft too high. If you've got bookend picks and he's there in one league, I take him. I don't put all my eggs in one basket at all in terms of Aaron Jones. I just think he has to deliver the touchdowns in order to get that value that you got last year, and I don't think that's going to happen. Too many rumors coming out of Buffalo about the Bills bringing in another running back. That's kind of why there's concern. Derek says it'll be interesting. Come around 2 in the Pimp League. Yes, it will. What else you got? Marlon Mack, top 10. You know what? That's an interesting one. Do not draft him as a top 10 back, Jeremy, but definitely grab him in the later rounds because he's falling way too far. He's falling way too far, way farther than he should. And, of course, he has top 10 running back appeal when he's on the field, but how many games will he miss? And I think that he's a fine, like almost flex-like guy or late running back too if you build heavy at wide receiver and QB. Let's say you take Mahomes in the second and you're building your running back 2 very late. Then that's when I like Mack on your roster. Mack could definitely have that kind of appeal, but do not go draft a Mack as a running back 1. You don't need to. You don't want to. And Aaron Jones, again, bookend-ish. This one's from Zip. I'm I am definitely targeting Sanders if he's going in the third round. I think he's being undervalued because people are scared he will be a committee, but people thought the same thing about Aaron Jones. They did, but there is, that's a good point. There was a historical reason to worry about Aaron Jones being in a running back by committee, much like there is with Sanders. But the difference is though, Aaron Jones is built to be an every down back. I'm not saying Sanders isn't, but he's like questionable. I think his frame. And it doesn't always come down to weight. If a guy weighs similar to another guy in the NFL, it comes down to build. The Kamara is built to be used the way that they utilize him, where he's like a 900 and 900 type player. Now, Sanders could be used like as a 900 and 900 type player. I don't know if they're going to, if they decided we're going to commit to using him much like Kamara is used, and they talked about it and they talked it up. I'd be pretty intrigued, but I still don't believe that the Eagles. They haven't convinced me that they're rolling with just Sanders. I just don't know what they're thinking. What's up, Edgar? I'm just like, I'm drafting him at the right spot, and he's going way too early in every single draft zip that I'm doing. He's going like at the top of the third, and I'm not willing to. I'd rather have a Kenyan Drake who has his question mark. So Zip, trust your gut. This is why we play the game, Zip. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm going to be right. I'm going to miss a big chunk of things in 2020. We all do. And this could very well be one of them. So if your gut screaming, I want Miles Sanders, Zip, then you damn well better go get him on your roster, young man. How about Connor? Connor, he's intriguing if he falls to value where like Mac is going or later, then I would probably take a gamble on him. But in like 1 league, 2 leagues, maybe. I do 14 leagues, so sure. But I don't know. Early stream tonight, thanks. No thoughts as of now. RG3, Nick. No. I'm not trying to disappoint you, Nick, but no, I don't think RG3. First of all, we're talking running backs, Nick, so you're not. Mark Ingram. Yeah, he could crack the top 10, but he could also completely vanish, and Hill could get, all the volume from like week 10 on. I kind of feel like that could be a scenario. Talent rises above committees. Not always, but I believe Drake's will. Drake was brought in. Their thing is they went after Drake. They went after him. They wanted him. They want to retain him. If they go about this right and they prove to us that they want to retain him, they're going to start him. So I think it's going to be good. The writing should be on the wall for us with Drake if he does get retained. Smitty, change my pimp league name. What do you want to change to? Aren't you Tannehill's dad? I thought that's what I have. Well, you don't respond to my thoughts, so I'll just listen, Smitty. It's not that I'm not responding, buddy. There's a lot of questions coming through. So I'm obviously responding to this one. I don't see your other one. Let me look for it, Savvy. Come on. You should know by now, Savvy, that I'm not ignoring anybody. That's kind of funny when people say that to me. It's kind of like when someone says, can you calm down? When you're not yelling or screaming. Smitty, can you stop ignoring me? Smitty, this is ridiculous. Smitty, you're ignoring me on purpose. The same for Denver. They want a pair of running backs with Lindsey. Is that what you're asking me, Savvy? Post it again, and I'll look for it. But you should know by now, Savvy, that I don't ignore anybody. Unless I see, no offense, Nick, but unless I see you talking about Geis or like this question, Jay Ajayi. No, Jay, why would you? Nick, I think you're kidding. Nick likes to play. There's no way you really think Jay Ajayi should be in a conversation of top 10 running backs. Funny, Nick. Good one, Nick. The issue with Chubb is, to me, is way too early to determine what his value is, I think you mean to say, because a lot of his fantasy is tied to what they do with Kareem Hunt. I agree in some small respect, P.S., but as I said, you must be late to the party. I addressed this earlier at the very beginning in the onset that it is a concern in a way, but it also, Stefanski's not typically, I don't think he's prone to using two running backs. I mean, at least lately. And what he just did with Dalvin Cook when he had Matheson on the roster and he used both running backs, sure, but he did not limit Cook's value in any way. He just ran so much. He had to give some work to somebody else. He ran that much. There's going to be so much running going on in Cleveland. There's no worry about workload for Nick Chubb, even with Kareem Hunt on the roster. If anything, P.S., if it ends up happening, it bumps Chubb's value down a little bit more, P.S., so that he becomes less risky in a way, right? And then Kareem Hunt isn't a solo running back anywhere, so his value is not going to climb. It's going to fall back. You should be able to reach a good round or so and grab both, grab Hunt a round earlier than his ADP, which will still be very, very good. Pair the two together and have yourself a top 5 running back. So I myself am not off Nick Chubb if that happens. Am I safe with my running backs in a contract league? Cook, McCaffrey, Eckler, Geis, or should I add another? You are safe as can be, Nick. Safe as can be. Now I know you're back to being serious. So this was a pleasant surprise as TV is booty. Zip. I love taking Sanders, Mays, but I don't know who else is available. I don't blame you for liking Sanders. He's kind of appealing if he falls far enough for me, but I just can't draft him at the top of the third. Not that I think anybody's crazy for thinking. Drake and Sanders are like the same type of like risk and reward. Probably. I mean, Drake I feel like has a higher ceiling, but that's my opinion. I realize that Sanders and Drake have the perception of a very similar player with similar upside in the grand scheme of things. In the general population, people see them as very similar. I see Drake as you guys see Sanders. I get it. I'm not going to argue against you. I think, very, 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 very understandable. Eckler or Jacobs? Fantastic question, Derek. God. Are we crazy? I'm almost backing off a little bit of my Eckler hype. Are we crazy that we can expect Eckler to do even close to the same amount, or the same kind of production level in 2020 without Rivers? Rivers laser locked on him and made him a reception monster. Can another quarterback, I mean, it depends who lands there, but can another quarterback focus on Eckler even close to the same amount? Will they use Eckler the same way? Rivers and him were like this. It was kind of like Big Ben and AB. When Big Ben would get hurt, AB would go from the number 1 overall player, or at least running wide receiver 1, down to freaking, not even a high-end wide receiver 2. So I worry about that. I'm not sold on Eckler if the wrong QB's in that offense, but because he doesn't run a ton. Maybe they changed that, but we don't even know if he can handle that. So a guy I once was so high on in the offseason, I'm admitting I'm changing directions a little bit. Not that I can't sway back. I really love his talent, and I think Eckler could be amazing. I'm just a little bit worried and wanting to know what happens at QB, because I was kind of hoping that when I was on, the Eckler hype train, I was kind of hoping and expecting Rivers to potentially be re-signed for one more year, for them to, mold somebody below him, and they didn't. So, is Sanders a must-buy in Dynasty? I wouldn't call him a must-buy. Like I said, Sanders to me is kind of getting overbought, but at the right price, I would invest. I don't hate Sanders. I just don't like overspending. I'd rather go get Drake. I'd rather draft Mahomes. Mahomes is better to me. All right, guys. That's going to do it for today. I appreciate all of you. Nick Chubb, go get him. Don't worry about Kareem Hunt. Go get him. Thanks, guys.